reverse FOIL. Okay? FOIL is technically the term for the distribution and the multiplication. Reverse FOIL would be trying to kind of undo this process with two binomials. So, do you know what the F stands for in FOIL? First. F-I-R-S-T. That means the first two terms have to multiply to get x squared. And luckily, there's only one option, x and x. And does anybody know what the L stands for? Last. So the last two terms have to multiply to get positive 8, which I can't just let you plug that in because there's more than one option. And so it could be positive 1, positive 8. It could be negative 1 times negative 8. It could be 2 times 4. It could be negative 2 times negative 4. So we have to find, of those four possibilities, we have to find the right combo so that the O and the I works out. Does anybody know what the O stands for? Outer. And outer would mean those two terms. And the I stands for inner, which would be the inner two terms. When you multiply the outer two terms and the inner two terms, they need to combine to be the 6. So when you do 1 and 8, and don't write this down, just watch me guess and check here. When I do 1 and 8, my outer product is 8x, my inner product is 1x. 8 and 1 combined makes 9. That's not 6. So I don't need to switch the order of that around because 8 and 1 is going to give me the same thing since both of those are plain old x's. 2 and 4, my outer gives me 4x, my inner gives me 2x. 4 and 2 make 6. Good, right? Because this is a plus sign, when I say combine, I really mean when you add them together. 4 and 2 make 6. So we know I got the right numbers. Now I have to decide, is it negative 2 and negative 4 or positive 2 and positive 4? Because it multiplies to give you positive 8, I know they have to be the same sign. So it's either a double negative or a double positive. You look to the middle sign to see which one it is. Since the middle is a plus, they're both plus. Okay? And, you've been doing this for the past couple weeks here and there when we were solving radical equations, so this should not be brand new. Number 2, I up the ante maybe a little bit because it's an x to the 4th. See how your middle term is kind of half of that x to the 4th? It's x to the 2nd. That should always be. And then that also tells you only have one choice for the first, x squared and x squared, not an option. For the 14, it's a negative 14, so I can do 1 with a negative 14, or I can do a negative 1 with a positive 14. I can do a 2 with a negative 7, or I can do a negative 2 with a positive 7. When you're multiplying to be a negative number, which the last two have to do, you need opposite signs. Yes? So when you are looking for opposite signs, you're looking for your outer and your inner to have a difference of 5. See, up here, we were looking for the outer and the inner to have a sum of 6. So if you're thinking of 7 and 2 or 1 and 14, which one of those combos have a difference of 5, Natalie? Okay, so not only did she give me the 2 and the 7, but she also gave me the signs, which is fine. But she said, what, did you say negative 2 and 7? Now let's check that. Certainly I get the negative 14. The big check is the outer and the inner. Natalie, what's your outer product? 7. What's your inner product? Does 7 and negative 2 make negative 5? No. 7 and a negative 2 would make positive 5. So she flipped her signs around. But that's part of the checking. You can't just guess and leave it alone, right? You got to guess and check to be sure. Now negative 7x squared plus 2x squared is negative 5x squared. Good, good, good. Okay, next one. If it's 2x to the 6th, Alexa, what times what gives you the 2, first of all? 2 and 1. There's really no other option. And then as far as the x to the 6th, Alexa, how do you break that one up? Perfect. You don't really have an option here. That has to be. You also don't have an option on the 5. It's 1 and 5. But here's where it finally matters. 1 and 5 will produce something different than 5 and 1. Because your outer term is getting multiplied by 2, and your inner term is only getting multiplied by 1. Up until this point, your outer was getting multiplied by 1, and your inner was getting multiplied by 1 on the x squared, so it didn't matter. Now it matters. So we have to try 1 and 5 and also 5 and 1. So if I try 1 and 5, and again, just watch me guess and check. If I do the 1 and 5 in that order, what does the outer give me? 10, and the inner gives me, does 10 and 1 have a difference because it's a negative of 9? Yes. Which one of those, because it is a negative 5, these need to be different signs. If I want it to be a positive 9, in the middle is a positive, I want my larger of the two products to be positive. So would that be the 10 or the 1? You want your 10 to be the positive, so I'll put a positive in front of the 5. That'll make a positive 10x cubed and a minus 1x cubed, and we all can confirm 10 minus 1 is 9. Good? Any questions? And then this one gets more challenging, not the numbers so much, but now we have a combo of x's and y's. Okay? So, how about 3x squared? How would you split that up, Lucas B? Just your first. I'm just looking for what times what gives me 3x squared. 3x next. No other option. Is what it is. 10y to the 4th. Now, again, we've got a higher exponent here, y to the 4th. What will pretty much always be the case, unless it's maybe not factorable, is that that middle term would have half of that y squared, which it does. So the y to the 4th part has to be y squared and y squared, but we have a couple options with the 10. It could be 1 and 10. It could be negative 1, negative 10. 2 and 5, negative 2 or negative 5, right? I'll tell you this. They have to be the same sign because it's positive 10. To figure out what that same sign is, look at the middle. Minus. It has to be a double negative. So now we have to try, and by the way, order also matters here, because the outer is going to get multiplied by the 3, and the inner is only going to get multiplied by the 1. So I'm just going to start playing around. I'm going to start with 1 and 10. I'm going to put my y squareds in there and leave it. So my outer product now is what? Negative 30, and my inner is, does negative 30 and negative 1 make negative 17? Absolutely not. So I'm going to flip that and do negative 10 and negative 1. My outer product is, and my inner is, negative 3 and negative 10. Does that make negative 17? Nope. So 10 and 1 are out. 2 and 5. Outer product is negative 15. Inner product is negative 2. Those make and combine to negative 17. So that's the one. Okay? Any questions? So at most here, we've had to guess maybe 4 different combos, but we've had pretty limited coefficients. If we look over here, and this is going to be a totally different method that I'm going to show you. This is tricky because this could be 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. And then, so you've got those two options. And then for the 12, you've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. You've got 3 different options. By the time you take the 2 different possibilities here and the 3 different possibilities here and also the different orders of this has 12 different guesses. Most people don't want to guess through 12 different options, okay? Some people have a better knack than others for number sense. Some people know their times tables just better and faster, and they can do this no problem guessing and checking. I would think that most of your math teachers would probably still use the guess and check method. But I'm no stranger to the fact that your times tables might not be as strong as the next person's. And if you struggle with times tables, I have a different method altogether for you. Okay? So, here's how it goes. I don't know if you've ever seen this before. This is called splitting the middle term. Because unlike combining like terms, we're actually going to uncombine like terms. We're going to split up 1 into something minus something or something plus something. There's a gazillion options. I could do 9x minus 8x. I could do 10x minus 9x. So you can't just blindly pick. There's got to be a method to why you pick what you pick. You ready for the method? You ready for it? Okay. You multiply your first leading coefficient times your last constant. What is 6 times negative 12? Negative 72. I need to find 2 numbers that multiply to get negative 72 and combine to get 1. Positive 9, negative 8. Now don't get me wrong, the better you know your times tables for this as well, the quicker this is going to be. If you really don't know your times tables that well and you just wanted to go through 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and whatever, 5 doesn't go in, 6 and 12, 8 and 9, 4 and 18 it was. You could kind of look which one has got to have some sort of combo of 1. Now, these are bad combos because I kept everything positive here. And 8 times 9 gives me 72. I want negative 72, so 1 has to be negative and 1 has to be positive in order to make 1. And that's where the positive 9, negative 8 came from. Does that make sense? So, I am specifically going to split my middle term. I'm going to leave my first, and I'm going to change the plus 1x to plus 9x minus 8x using those magic 2 numbers I just came up with. And if you pick the right 2 numbers and you split this up, how many terms do we now have? 4. And we learned yesterday that if you want to factor 4 terms, you do it by grouping. So on my first group, I'm taking out a 3x. On my second group, I'm taking out a negative 4. Did grouping work? It should. If you picked the right 2 numbers, it should. Okay? If the 2 numbers don't exist that make all that happen, then it's not factorable by grouping. Okay? It's not factorable by splitting the middle term. It's probably not factorable at all. So now just taking it to my final answer, Elena, what would my final answer be?
2x plus 3 and 3x minus 4.
Perfect. Now, can you still check? Should you still check your foiling? Sure. 2x times 3x gives me 6x squared, so the first is good. Positive 3 times negative 4 gives me negative 12, so my last is good. My outer is negative 8x. My inner is positive 9. Does negative 8 and positive 9 make 1? Beautiful. Okay? So in case you made a mistake, you can still check. But usually that kind of would self-check. Like you'd run into a problem if you made a mistake. How's that sound? Have you seen that before? Anything similar? No. But nice, right? You probably wouldn't have seen that before because grouping you just saw for the first time yesterday, right? Or no? Yeah. Okay. Next one. So let me remind you, you're looking for two numbers that multiply to get, what's 8 times 9? Oh, same old thing. So what two numbers multiply to get 72 that combine to get 73? Right, 1 and 72. Now, but be careful, because positive 1 and positive 72 does multiply to give me 72. But positive 1 and positive 72 actually combine to give me positive 73. I don't want positive 73. I want negative 73. So how do I adjust those numbers? Make them both negative. Negative 1 times negative 72, the double negative, will still multiply to give me a positive, but now will combine to give me a negative 73. The difference with this one, and it's subtle, this is not a big deal, this should make sense to you, is that when I split up an x to the 5th term, I keep them x to the 5th terms. Like here I was splitting up a plain old x, so I threw those two numbers on x's. Here I'm splitting up an x to the 5th term, so I'm going to throw those two numbers on x to the 5th terms. So 8x to the 10th minus 1x to the 5th minus 72x to the 5th. Whatever that middle terms variable combo is, that's what you have to split it up into. Grouping. Mike, what do I take out of the first group? Perfect. And I'm left with what? Not squared. There were 10 of them. I'm dividing out 5 of them. X to the 10th divided by x to the 5th. X to the 5th. You subtract those exponents, right? And then keep going. Minus 1. Good? Kate, next group, what am I taking out? 8 doesn't go into 9. Negative 9. And what am I left with? Plain x to the 5th? 8x to the 5th. Keep going. Minus 1. Again, if those two numbers existed, and you truly picked the right two numbers, grouping will work. If it doesn't, it's going to be because you made a mistake. Either they weren't the right two numbers and you misthought about that, or you made a mistake in your grouping, but they should match. So your final answer, Tess, is what? Georgia. Nope. Nope. It might end up flip-flopping the factors, like to Corey's question earlier, but nope, it does not matter. So if you, like, does everyone follow what she just said? If you plugged in the negative 72x to the 5th first minus the 1x to the 5th, it'll still work out. It'll come to fruition a little bit differently, but you'll have the same two factors in the end. Did you happen to do it the other order? And it worked, right? Yeah. Right. And then on this last one, we talked about GCF yesterday, and I have yet to bring it up today. The way you should start every problem is by GCF, okay? Because if I just start trying to split the middle term and I multiply 2 times 56, that's 112. Not that you couldn't come up with your list of factors that gives you 112, but that's a bigger number than we are probably comfortable with, right? So if it's possible, you want to divide out a GCF right from the start. And what GCF do all three of these terms have in common? 2. So if I pull out a 2, I'm left with x squared minus 11xy cubed plus 28y to the 6th. Now I can focus my splitting middle term attention on just the trinomial. That 2 has to show up in your final answer, so I'm not going to forget about that. But for the moment, I'm just going to focus on my trinomial. So I need two numbers that multiply to get what, Angie? 28 and add to get what? Negative 11. So I got 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. Angie, which one of those has like an 11-ish combo? 4 and 7. Now, 4 times 7 does give me 28, but 4 combined with 7 gives me a positive 11. So I need to do what to adjust for that, Faye? Make them both negative. Beautiful. So x squared. Now, my middle term is an xy cubed term. So I have to do minus 4xy cubed minus 7xy cubed plus my last term. First group. Haley, what do I take out? And I'm left with? Oh, you did it in a different order. Did you put those in a different order? Okay, no problem. I'm going to make it x minus 4y cubed. And then, so this is going to be different for you too. Jason, what can I take out of my second group? Careful of that 7. It should be a negative 7y cubed. And what am I left with? So my two final factors are of that portion are x minus 4y cubed and x minus 7y cubed. Now, if you forget about that GCF and don't bring it down to the final answer right away, this takes a lot of thought. Your mind gets distracted, you're so focused on grouping and doing all that here, and you come down and you leave just this as your final answer. It's not right. Okay? So, and I know, I get it, it's easy to forget about that GCF. That's why I would recommend just once you know you've taken out a GCF, put an arrow and know that that's the start of your final answer. And then the rest of it will just play into that. Chloe.
When you put the 2, it just shows like 2x, like minus 4y, and you do that. Do you have to put like brackets or anything for all of this? You multiply it all the way through?
Right here, should I put brackets around that? No, so when factors are binomials, you need parentheses around them. When factors are monomials, that versus this is the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't really matter. Okay? Flip to the back. Do this one on your own. coefficient. In fact, when there's no leading coefficient, if it's just 1x squared, I want you to guess and check. It's much faster. But when there's lots of guesses and options, splitting the middle term just kind of is a way to get you there. So these corrections would normally be due on Monday, but I never like to do that on a Monday because you'll have a regular assignment due Monday, you'll have a spiral due Monday, you'll have a corrections due Monday. So these corrections will just be due on Tuesday. The test was out of 45. Your homework tonight is just, don't pay attention to this guess and check or this split the middle. Use whichever strategy on whichever problem makes the most sense. So tonight, you're just doing 17 through 37 odd. Capiche? Again, your answers are on the back of that worksheet, and we'll be working off of that worksheet for the next several days. Off the worksheet that you worked out, that one, 17 through 37 odds.